I hope everyone has enjoyed the sessions and thus far. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Lanice. This is your show today.
All right, listen, I can only do it with y'all. If y'all were not here, we would not be having it. So I'm excited. Definitely, the morning session was absolutely fantastic. I hope everybody was able to join us and feel as inspired as I do as we are jumping in. And I will first, so I asked the audience while we were still working out our text to let us know if they are entrepreneurs, either aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs, just so we kind of know, who's in before we even jump into who we are. So, please feel free, throw that in the chat, or folks that are just interested in entrepreneurship, but may some of those, what did she call them earlier, limits, right? Time, fear, whatever it may be. So I am Lanice Lee. I am the CEO of Collective Initiatives Incorporated, a nonprofit organization geared towards economic and social development in under-resourced communities. Today by our fantastic panelist, Mr. Kevin Smith, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the eProspect LLC, and our very own Melinda, the chair of the Chicago Chapter National Black MBA Association Entrepreneurship Committee, and a broker associate at Jameson Specialty. So welcome.
Excited to
So,
be
all
here.
right. So we good. So we got those introductions out of the way with, just letting you guys know, letting people know who you are. And of course, as to the conversation, if they're more to know, because we know entrepreneurship is not just a one facet thing, right? There are all these layers. So please feel free to tell us more about you. So I'm going to jump right into our first question for today. What does a day in the life of an entrepreneur look like? So Kevin, let's start off with you. What does it look like, a day in the life?
Sometimes I feel like I'm a movie star, and the reason I say that is because you have to, like, your days start early, they run long at times. Um, However, you have to really plan out your day. You don't have, it seems like you have a lot of time to just as leisure. However, those idle times can be crucial and critical to your growth. Procrastination always creeping up. Find yourself surfing the web, surfing social media, and sometimes you could be there posting for your business and creating marketing campaigns, or sometimes you could just be there and you find yourself there for an hour. So it's important that you keep that everything limited. So for me, the best way that I do things is I just already map my day out. So Sundays are my day to Sundays is my day to prepare for my week. So I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking at my schedule. I live by my schedule, only because if I don't, it get away from me. So I find myself double booking if I don't look at my schedule. So in order to stay on top of that, you have to have that. So that's what most of the movie stars have at times, or they have an assistant and they keep them on schedule. Hey, you have a 12 o'clock meeting here and 1:30 meeting there, and so you have to stay on top of yourself and police yourself, because you may not be at that point where you have an assistant. I'm not at that point where I have an assistant, but I am doing well. However, I have to be self-disciplined. So being an entrepreneur is really about being self-disciplined, because you have so many easily distractions throughout a day versus versus any other route.
Oh yeah, Melinda, jump right in. Thank you so much, Kevin. I mean, you gave us some to answer before. I'm Melinda to answer before we kind of dive into any of those small pieces. So please, Melinda, take us away.
No, I would echo Kevin. Like you learn coming from corporate America, you learn a couple of things. You bring a lot with you. And I will be honest, for me, I felt I was a bit arrogant in thinking that my transition to entrepreneurship would be smooth because, I'm an MBA. and, you know, come from a very traditional corporate background. But what I learned was there's a difference between being organized and having systems. And entrepreneurship teaches you, at least for me, taught me about the value of having systems, because now time is money. And because of that, things come together in a way where you are systematizing your day so that not only that it's profitable for you, but you give the best value to your clients. And so the best way to do that is to put things in place that will enable you to do that. So like Kevin spoke, I run on a schedule. And anyone that knows me well, if it's outside the schedule, I'm prioritizing every day. Things come up. What has to shift so I can address this based on its priority status? You know, so I start my day with meditation. So I'm up at 6 a.m. from 6 to 6:37. I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm reviewing what I have to do that day. I spend my mornings focused on, before 9 o'clock, I've sent out emails, I've responded to text messages. I don't start taking calls till 9. And those calls are usually with peers in my industry. I don't start engaging with clients on the phone until 10 unless they request earlier, because I want to be respectful of, they need to get their day started. They've got their own priorities. And then I just run through my day based on, you know, what's going to meet the priorities for that day. And I always have a set goal that if I touch 80% of what was on my list for the day, it was a great day. Because you have to prepare that things are going to come up, and you got to be able to pivot and shift, while at the same time not holding yourself hostage for not getting it all right and getting it all done. You know, so I move through the world in that way. I start with meditation. I take breaks in my car throughout the day where I pray with, you know, I have a number of apps on my phone, and I end my day with that. And my ask is always of God every morning, allow me to be productive, positive, patient, tolerant, and kind with everyone in the world and with myself.
No, thank you for that. Thank you, both Kevin and Melinda. I mean, you gave us some good jewels to even start off with, right? Kevin, you talked about, you know, starting your week and laying out the foundation for the week right there. Melinda, you talked about the starting of your day, right? Opening up your positivity. And both, you know, whether you're starting your week, getting started on the right foot, and then keeping yourself focused, using your schedule, keeping focused, so that you can move the way you need to move and handle the things you need to handle. And as you both said, you know, those distractions come up, right? Rather it's demand from our clients, like whatever is happening, they come up. We want to make sure that we are prioritizing what's important, giving space to that may come up, or, you know, even though you might be on social media, maybe some of that engagement is going to yield more clients or more relationships, right? So it's not all just, oh, I was just surfing. So you guys have given us some great things to start. So when we consider your day-to-day, your planning and things like that, can you tell us a little bit about some of the activities that you guys are doing now to determine, as you're, you know, prioritizing what needs to happen and focusing on those different activities? Can you just talk to us about like what that looks like, especially as the year is coming to a close?
Kevin, you want me to kick it off?
Melinda, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Yep. And Lanice, I know Adam is attempting to come on as well. Okay,
sounds good. Thank you.
So right now, I am very much knee-deep planning mode. I usually kick off my collection of data in September, the end of Q3. I usually am very good at managing my business plan against not only annual efforts, but quarterly, what I want to accomplish, within a month, within a week. But the part that I lean in the most to is what do I want MJ the Closer to be in 3 years out, 5 years out. And what's different about my industry, so I am a residential, primarily real estate broker here in Chicago, is my business model is a little different than I would say most realtors in my industry, meaning I'm building a business not for the sole purpose of serving my local community. I'm building a business from the lens to sell the business. And so because my perspective is I want this to be a sellable brand of MJ the Closer, that because of that, my planning sessions are a little different. It's not just about how many units I want to sell, how much volume do I want to do. It's really about, does the brand experience and the brand come to life outside of Chicago, around the world, in a way that someone will come to me and want to buy my business. And because of that, I spend a lot more time on the analytical part of real estate in the world. Who am I targeting? How do they live in the world? And am I where they are? And so I do a lot of data mining. I do a lot of tracking. And so in September, I spent all of my time looking at, what are the growth rates for millennials? Where are they buying? Why are they buying there? What causes do they care about? And I'm doing that for the groups that I target and I focus on. This month, I am now pulling in all of that, what actually happened in the business. But remember, I track this every quarter, every week, every month. So I know where my numbers are and where my blind spots are for the most part. But what I do a little differently, so I don't assume I know what's happening in the business, even though I'm in the business, is I have an advisory board. I have a coach. I have a mentor. And when I get my plan to what I say a 60, 70% mark, I then present it to them. And I let them weigh in and say, hey, MJ, you may want to think about this. Did you ask this question? Here's some research you need. Here are the resources you need to be leaning into. And so my business planning process for the next year and the next 3 years takes me about 4 to 5 months to do. So right now, my advisors have committed to, on November 11th, we're going to review your plan. So that's what I'm leaning into in the back half of this particular quarter is, what's my plan? Where are the opportunities? Am I generating the type of revenue per client in a way that I should based on my target?
Awesome. Thank you, Melinda. You dropped a lot of jewels on us, right? Talking about the plan and the opportunities, the pulling advice, which our morning speaker talked about as well, is, getting those advice and weigh in, and then having a specific time frame that you are holding yourself accountable. So thank you for that. So Adam, I want to welcome you and give you just a moment here to introduce yourself. And then we will jump in, and you're going to actually start us off on this one. So we're picking up with, so we started off, we talked about local day, and talking about setting our priorities for the end of the year and getting those activities behind us, and kind of what that looks like for us. So please jump right.
All right, I'll jump right in. So again, my name is Adam Calorie, and I'm a small business coach. I've been doing this now for about 11 years, primarily working with 2 national programs. I work with Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program and also the SBA Emerging Leaders Program. The areas I work with business owners on primarily is financial management and planning, also operations, and last but not least, business development. And when I talk about business development, it's not marketing. It's really sitting down with them, as Melinda was talking about, really getting them to think about what elements should be in their plan, what they would like to actually do, think about their capabilities, their capacity for the next year, and then see what goals they want to pursue. To jump on the question that you guys were just talking about, how do I handle my everyday? I have to go back to an origin story in terms of how I got started in this entrepreneur space. And when you read the books, I'm one of those people who had to do it because I lost my job. And so I had to do something very quick. I had, bills, liabilities, and I had to do something that I thought would turn quickly. As it turns out, it was real estate. So became a real estate agent, then became a licensed broker here in the state of Illinois. And there's one thing about real estate that helps me do what I do today, which is real estate is one of those professions, one of those independent professions where you can learn how to think like a business owner fairly quickly. It's not just about selling a property. It's sitting down with people, acting as an advisor, being a consultant to them, talking to bankers and finding out what the financing options are for my clients. Thinking broadly about the industry, is the industry good? Is it bad? If it's bad, how should I respond to it? I got to think about the sales side, how many people I need in my pipeline. So those things or those activities essentially influence what I do. My family started a real estate brokerage here in Chicago. I phased out of the real estate myself, and I do more of the small business coaching, but the philosophy of real estate still carries. So my day stuff with, what is something that I can do today that's going to be beneficial to the consulting business, to the coaching business? If I have clients out there, am I servicing them properly? Have I answered their questions? If they give me a task to do, have I completed it on time? And then there's some other fundamental things. Coming out of the MBA program, nobody ever told me about contracts. No one ever taught me about invoicing. The key is I can do a whole lot of work and never get paid. And I won't get paid because I haven't completed an invoice. So that simple task of doing an invoice, that other task of having a contract in place to make sure you're going to at least have the opportunity to get paid is one of the things that I work on quite a bit during the day. Because people always approach me saying, hey, can you work with me? And I go, yeah, no problem. In the past, I would just start working with them right away. Today, it's, oh, you want to work with me? Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about what you want to do. Let's find out what your limitations are, what your goals and opportunities that you see, and let's put it on paper. And then after you see the contract, do you want to move forward? And then if they sign the contract, then we move forward. Because the ideal of entrepreneurship is that I have to guarantee income. I can't guarantee hope. I have to have income. So learning that paperwork is important, learning how to put it together, how to write a contract, how to process a contract if things don't go well, how to make sure I'm consistent in invoicing, make sure my cash flow is maintained. So those are some of the things I think about on a day-to-day basis. What does my cash flow picture look like today? What does it look like this past month? What does it look like in the future? Because as Melinda is saying, I do have some financial goals I'm shooting for. And in this independent space, the income is not always guaranteed as it was when I was working in corporate. So I want to achieve those same numbers that I was achieving in corporate, but it's definitely harder to get when you're independent.
Thank you so much for that, Adam. Yeah, and you've pulled in, not only some pieces from what Melinda said, added some additional, thoughts and concepts around that. So I want to move to Kevin and give him the opportunity to answer the question. I want to talk about that income-driven piece. So Melinda definitely talked about her long-term goal is to sell this business. So every day, her activities and close of the year is centered around what needs to happen later so that I can, sell this business. And Adam, you talked to us about the day-to-day, creating those proper contracts, invoicing, getting that money, having the opportunities to explore with clients, but still keeping an eye on you and what needs to happen. So Kevin, I wanna bring you right in with that. Tell us a little bit about some of those things that you might be doing on a day by day and as the close of the year to, you know, make sure that you're planning for the future, modifying the cash flow, right? Because it's not guaranteed. We don't get that the luxury of that regular paycheck like we would with a 9 to 5. So please tell us.
Yeah, I mean, like they said earlier, it is very hard to kind of sit on some things. So I think for me, what I like to focus on in the back half of the year is more so partnerships. Those are really the key to growth. I've grew a lot over the last year just through certain partnerships. Working with organizations like the National Black NBA has really took me from just a person who was like early on in the consulting game to being able to staple myself as a thought leader and surround myself with people like Dr. Calorie and Melinda to help me with growth, to understand certain situations like managing your time, giving yourself those brain breaks or giving yourself those weekends. So when I think about that, I think about how I'm building my brand awareness. I'm always constantly spending the back half looking at trends and what they're looking like for the next upcoming year. Because as a consultant, you understand that you have to stay up, you have to do, the self-education. What you learned in your MBA, that's old. That's old right now. That's obsolete. They kind of moving on new theories and methodologies that you have to be on top of. So learning those different ones. I teach right now with different cohorts working with Founders First. So I'm teaching right now on the East Coast. I was on the West Coast when I first started and then did the Midwest. So now I'm on the East Coast. So I'm working with those companies, and I've been getting an array of clients that I'm having to coach and teach. So they keep me on my toes as far as understanding those things. So I'm looking at what other partnerships. I understand that in this industry, a lot of startups are looking for those strategies, but they're looking for funding too. Some of them are making money and just trying to figure out how can I get the funding. So I'm trying to connect with those type of funding institutions or venture capitalists or angel investors and trying to figure out the best possible way for them to get the funding, but to meet each person's needs. Some people don't want to give up any equity. Some people don't want to go into any debt. They just want to get funded. And it's like, so now we got to start talking about some of those key ways. And so it allows me to do more research on that aspect, but building my brand awareness. So trying to think of more speaking engagements for the upcoming year. So as far as that, I do have I wouldn't say a little bit of a residency with Founders First that pays me, consistently on top of my contract. So that on top of my clients paying me. So now I have to figure out what other ways to, automate my business or other ways to find other opportunities to allow me to get paid and keep that in. So that comes with investing. So having multiple streams of income. For some people, they do have the luxury of having a job and working a side hustle while running their business in the evening. So I have other businesses that I am investing on, boards that I sit on, or that I have money invested that's yielding me a return, so that I can continue to comfortably work this position.
Hey, Lanice, I just want to say something very quickly. Kevin brought up a very good point, and I don't want it to be missed here since we're with the Black MBAs. You have 3 people who are on this call right now, all been involved with the Black MBAs, in particular a leadership position. And I have to say, when I think about where I am today, having the ability to talk to a stranger and ask them for money actually came from the Black MBAs, because as an officer, we had to go and do fund development. So we're walking into a corporate suite and we're talking to senior directors and executive vice presidents. And at that time, I'm still working, and my level at that time was low. And here I am talking to someone who's a senior manager, asking them for $10,000, asking for $20,000. And I have to say I was shy at that time. So people wouldn't believe it today, but I was very shy. So it was difficult for me to walk into these rooms and ask for money. But over time, because of the organization and because some of the training and working with people like the people on this call, I got over that fear and I was able to go in and ask for money. Now, fast forward to today, that's what I'm doing today. I'm asking people for money. And I have to also get to the point where I value my time. And what I mean by that, am I worth $200 an hour? Am I worth $150 an hour? We're not talking $15 an hour. You can't run a business at $15 an hour, period. So I have to get it up to some number that's going to pay for all of my costs. And so I have to feel confident that I'm worth that money. And that came from just working with the Black MBAs, trying to do that fund development back in the day. So just want to throw that out since Kevin brought that up.
No, I think that was perfect, Adam. And as a nonprofit leader, like that's what I do. Like I have to ask for money, and all you get in return is a little bit of intrinsic value and a thank you letter and a smile. So I can understand that 100%, and I love the fact that you were able to tie that together so wonderfully in thinking about that connective piece, right? That we talked about earlier today. And we've been dropping those nuggets here, which is partnering with people, connecting with people, and finding those avenues where those areas where you may be short in, you can build those skills up. You're going to use them every day in this entrepreneurship journey. And it's essential, right? You have to be able to connect and do some uncomfortable things if you want to. So I can definitely appreciate that, and thank you for pointing out those pieces. Good. Before I just kind of move into our last question for today, I wanted to make sure, was there any other things that you guys have heard from one another that you want to explore a little bit more? No.
Wait. Who you talking? You talking about?
No, yeah, just in general. Before, because we're more, and I think it's the big one here, right? Which is all the stuff that we're talking about, being able to evaluate that stuff. So before I kind of, guys, be free to think about the evaluation piece of that data that you're talking about, and those connective pieces. I just want to make sure, was there anything else we want to know as we move forward?
Okay, I'll throw this out. Kevin highlighted this, looking at, multiple streams of income. That's also my day-to-day. So in most cases, the people I've spoken with over the years right now, they started their business first part-time. And so they had a fixed income coming in. It's extremely important because I think many businesses that fail because they haven't done the cash flow study, meaning they haven't really thought about how much money it takes to keep the business afloat.
Right.
Because every day is not going to be a great day. And so thinking about those multiple streams of income has been in the back of my mind for the last 10 years. In fact, I'll just say this. I started in real estate right after 9/11 because I was working for a company, got laid off a year later, right after 9/11. And so there I am in real estate. So no income coming in, nowhere to look to turn. So I had to do something quickly. So I got into real estate, but then I also got into education, in this case, higher ed. And so here I am interviewing for a job to become a professor, and at the same time trying to do real estate, but I had to out of survival. So part of this is starting or planting that seed for me, that I have to have multiple streams coming in to sort of cover for these rainy days. Fast forward again, I do the same thing. I have clients, I have the teaching load from higher ed, I have other work I'm doing with Goldman and the SBA. And so I keep track of those streams and I try to make sure that I do what I need to do to make sure they're consistent. So I think, again, thinking about multiple streams of income keep you thinking about sales, which is part of this process too. I'm always something, right? So the question is, can I monetize the sale activity? And that's what's always in the back of my mind.
No, I appreciate that, Adam. And you're right. When you transition from employment to entrepreneurship, there's no right way, and there's no book that can tell you how you emotionally going to deal with going from, someone else has done all the fishing and you contribute and you take your portion of the gatherings home to now I've got to do the fishing, the gathering, and taking it home. I will say one thing I would add before we move on is being very intentional and deliberate about the relationships and networking, because again, this is around valuing your time, because now where you spend your time is even more important. Who you spend your time with is even more important. And it's to Nicole's conversation, early on when we kicked off BLI, know the people you're surrounding yourself by, because when you get into entrepreneurship, so much of those intersecting points she talked about come to play, and they're going to be people that can help you cultivate your purpose and how you show up through your business. And if you are just going to events and sessions, that's busy work. As an entrepreneur, you don't have the time to be busy. Mm-hmm. Your time is focused on being productive and doing that in a way that's authentic to you.
Yeah. And to add in this addition of networking, I know a lot of times right now we in this heavy trend of, we're in this heavy trend of people wanting to do everything digitally, right? However, the old age of getting in the face of people to really have an authentic relationship and build an authentic rapport with people still stands the test of time, because you can represent yourself however you want on the internet, but when somebody sees you in person, and we see this all the time, and I know this is kind of off topic a little bit, but the disappointment that people see when they meet somebody in person for a dating and they see them and they don't match who they are online, it's the same. It's kind of the same way when you are meeting somebody and they don't meet those things that they say online. So trying to make sure that you are in the face of the people to let people see the real value of how authentic you are, how supportive you are, what type of solutions you can provide to their problems. It's not always about what you can get out of them, is what you can provide while both helping each other at the same time. So that part really helps your business grow and not feeling like you always in competition with people. There are times where it may be some direct competitors, but maybe you can find something there that you can help each other out. Make sure as far as growing, cross-referencing. Maybe you are a marketing consulting firm and you may need to partner up with somebody who is a more strategic consulting firm. And now you have dual services that you can add, that you can white label to. So it's more ways to think about growing than just actually stand online. We have this comfortability of sitting behind our computer or behind our phone and letting people tell us we can make millions from that. And there are people making it. But when you get out here and you really be strategic with how you're moving, you'll find a lot more growth than trying to sell yourself online to a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So how do we evaluate those opportunities if it's worth it to spend our time, cultivating this relationship, or because our time is money, right? Spend our time, then in networking, or which streams of income should we choose? Because everybody that walk up, you can't just, oh yes, I want to partner with you. Like, it's the decision. So how would you recommend evaluating those activities that you will put your time into and what they value, the true value that they'll yield, both monetarily, long-term, or short-term?
So Lanice, you want the professional answer, or you want the real deal?
Well, we're on the national BA, so we need a little bit of both tied together in a bow for me.
Well, I'm just going to give you the real deal. The real deal to your answer is that you got to get your toes stepped on a couple of times. And I'm going to say it's coming out of real estate, man. Everybody wants to be in real estate. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be wealthy. Everybody wants appreciation on their home, right? And when you walk up to them, they say, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house. I've always wanted to buy a house. And then after about 2.5 months of taking them around and burning your gas and having them walk out and say, I've changed my mind, guess what? My toes been stepped on. I need to do a little bit better in screening the people who are in front of me. And you learn this technique of screening, folks. And and when they come to you, you don't want to be, I know Kevin knows this, you don't want to be rude, right? And you don't want to have that frown on your face like, oh, here comes another one. You're going to smile, but you're going to ask the top 3 questions like, really, you're interested in this? Great. When did you start to think about this? Wonderful. When do you want to move forward? Oh, great. Do you know it's going to cost? And when you get there, if they walk away, you say, okay, good, let's take care of that one. All it cost me was a cup of coffee. But you got to screen people. You got to screen them, man. And you got to come up with the questions that are appropriate for your industry. Because every industry is a little bit different. But you got to screen people. And then you have to be willing to look them in the eye. And eyes don't lie, man. Although, as Kevin said, there's some nice pictures out there on Instagram. People sure do look beautiful. They look like they're prosperous until they pull up in their car and you go, uh-oh, there's something going on here. What? They ain't got no money. I'm sorry. I just want to be real.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Kevin or Melinda, do you want to, add some pieces to that? How do you evaluate those opportunities and those activities? And the people that are, coming and approaching you and asking for your time?
Well, you get that a lot, especially when they see how you're moving. If you are like kind of finding some traction, you get a lot of people. Oh, I want to get on your calendar. I want to talk to you. I got this going on. I got that going on. You just got, just sitting in front of them and actually talking to them and kind of seeing exactly how they go about doing certain things to tell you if they really organized or not. So pick your brain. Yeah, you get a lot of pick your brains. Tire kickers, as they would call them in other industries, that just want to kind of soak you up for free and try to move on. But what you need to do is you just, as you say, ask a series of questions, or ask how, if they ask you to come speak at an event, how is that event ran? Tell me more about the logistics of it. So that gives you an understanding of how serious they are, or understanding how well organized they are to see if you want to do business with them. I've had people hit me up with last minute stuff. Oh, I need you to do this for me. No, I can't do that for you because that's not enough time for me. You got to be cognitive of my scheduling just as well as I am of yours. So if you have those last minute people, that's a real clear sign that you don't want to do business with somebody like that, because you got to understand, when you co-sign somebody, your brand is attached to that. And you got to be protective of your brand as well. So you don't want to just take on anything because the money sounds good or whatever, because if it doesn't turn out right, then your brand takes the hit. And some people are still in the building phase of building their brand. So taking too many hits early on, it may be hard for you to recover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would so agree with both you guys, and as Adam has talked about, probably the quickest way to learn to bump your head is when you get licensed in real estate. You hear no a lot before you hear more yeses. And, I participate in a lot of coaching programs. And so what we've learned is you've got to be even strategic about the qualifying. And understand what questions you specifically need to ask, so not that they're not a good client for you, but who can best add the value and service them. Because to Adam and Kevin's earlier points, this is you thinking strategically about how else to monetize your time. This client may not be a good fit for you, but they may be a good fit for someone in your network. And now you refer them and there could be a referral fee. And now you elevated that relationship with the referral partner, but you've elevated that relationship with the client you didn't serve, because they now see you as a resource. Hey, she knew she was not the one to assist me, but she put me with someone who could, and that knocked it out the waters. So now that's strategic networking, and you've monetized your time in a way it got service, but not because you had your hands on it. And so one of the things I've learned through my coaching is that when I'm having a conversation with a client, a prospect, right? We got to qualify, what are these conversations? Is this a lead? Is this a prospect? How did it come to me? We ask we leverage what we call the forward questions, right? And the forward questions enable you to break down bits of information that sometimes your client doesn't quite know how, or the person on the other side does not know how to articulate. So forward stands for, the F is for, you're asking them about their family, specifically about them. The O is about their work, their occupation. What do they do? What's going on your job? The R is for recreation. What are your hobbies and your habits? How do you spend your life outside of your work? And the D is about your dreams. How is it that we're having this conversation and all those things? How can I help enable you or be a partner in you getting to the next version of yourself? Because that's what you're paying me to do. You're paying me to help you enable your goals, help you manifest the next version of you. And so if I'm going through those questions and I can identify that I'm not the best partner, I've been thinking about who would be, versus I'm going to send you out into the world and say, I can't help you, baby, I can't help you. So I try never to say, I can't assist you. I try to say, you know what? I'm not an expert in that space, but I'm going to identify somebody that will and can do that for you. So I think for me, that's what's been tremendous in growing my business and managing my time, because now I'm able to say, all right, I can have a conversation with you. And if it's an initial conversation, guardrails and boundaries. Initial conversation, 10, 15 minutes. If we have a rapport, I feel like I can help you, let's sit down for half an hour, coffee, tea, whatever that is, and move it through the funnel, versus, to Kevin's point, giving someone an hour and you learn you can't help them or they're not a good fit, when you could have probably talked to 2 or 3 people in that same time frame. So that's how I qualify, is it a nice prospect, and where are there other strategic opportunities for me to further monetize the things I enjoy doing or enjoy being connected to.
If I can, Melinda brings up the point about qualification, and I'll just build off of that. And I'm going to get formal now, forget about what I said earlier. The one thing I think we have to get past is being immature when it comes to entrepreneurship. There's a maturity level that you get to when you're going through this qualification process. And it starts with this understanding of money. So someone comes to me and said, you're going to make a lot of money with me. When I was just beginning in the business, I got excited about that because, I want to make a lot of money. When I matured, I realized it's not about the money word. It's not about that at all. I need to think about, am I making a profit in this transaction? So what are you promising to pay me? And what's going to be the cost? And so when Melinda's talking about I go through the qualification, by the time she gets to that third layer and we're now talking, I'm sure she's already processing, well, this person wants a single family home. She wants to go out to Schaumburg. Okay, it takes a 40-minute ride out to Schaumburg on a good day. That's going to be an hour driving. On a bad day, or an hour and a half. I got to make sure I'm very specific about the homes they want, because I'm not trying to make 17 trips out to Schaumburg, because that's going to burn at least $200 or $300 worth of gas. So your mind is already processing profit. You're not thinking about, I'm just making money. So when you start doing that, then your qualification questions become more specific and more finite. And I think the one thing about MBAs, we learn about marketing, we learn about the 4 Ps, because the perspective of the 4 Ps is that I'm managing someone else's dream, right? The price, the product, someone else has already done the work for me. In entrepreneurship, I have to manage the sales. And as MBAs, we're never taught sales. So I think that's one of the skills that doesn't hurt to develop. Take a sales class or go to join the sales association. Learn the techniques of being a salesperson. Learning how to get past no, learning how to really find out what's going on in someone's mind. So you know whether or not this is going to be a good transaction, because that's really what you're doing. You're closing a transaction. So the question is this going to be a good transaction for my business? Will I be profitable at the end of the day?
No, thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. Did you want to add in?
Yeah, I did definitely want to add in, because he spoke about sales, and one thing you just can't be afraid of as an entrepreneur is the element of sales. It's actually a science to it. And you just have to it takes a lot of listening. You ask probing questions, but you listen. They will tell you exactly what they need. However, we get these scripts, and it's all about trying to get the script off. That's what we think. It's, you get it, you hear it sometimes when telemarketers call call your phone, and they're telling you, they're asking your name, and you say, hey, yeah, this is me, and then they go on a script, and you say, I'm okay, and then they go, you can kind of hear them shuffling through that objective. Oh, this is part where they say no. Well, hey, well, what about this? So it's just like, no, but when you listen and you have a real genuine conversation, a good salesman, it sounds like a regular conversation. And within that conversation, they have told you everything. But I think the key to that sales is actually having great understanding of your product and service. Because once you have an understanding of that, then you kind of know which way to position them for a close. So if you're listening to them and you hear budget, then maybe you want to just, in casual conversation, you speak about some of the funding options that may be available, right? And hit some of those key, key things like, hey, we got financing, we got low down payments, we have no interest, money plans. How does that work for you? Do you think that'll work with your budget? Or you just ask them, what is their budget along the way? And then they'll tell you like, oh yeah, this is my budget. Okay. Now you already understand within that budget what the room is, the threshold to play with. And then from there, you can kind of position what program may work for you if you have a service, or if you have a lower tier product, how to offer that to them. Okay. But then one thing I think you have to be understanding comfortable with is that if they're not able to buy right now, okay, no worries. Don't close them out all the way. Maybe just check in with them periodically. Just see how they're doing. See if they still in interest to buy, shop with you, and you say, okay, and just building that rapport. Because if you have something worth value and they may not be ready for it now, they'll come back and get it, but it all depends on how you treat them along the way, not knowing that, oh, you're not getting a sale from me. No worries. I ain't got nothing else to say to you. So that's still adding that element of customer service to the approach of sales. With those two combinations, you'll find yourself in a lot of successful situations.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. So we only have a few more minutes left here, but one of the things that I've picked up from our conversation is we are all very much so service-based, right? So we talked a lot about engaging people and having those conversations and filtering through and thinking about streams of income in terms of kind of people engagement. Are there any nuggets that you guys can offer for folks that are product based, right? So if I'm making candles and I have 3 types of candles, and now all of a sudden I want to have 10 types of candles, right? Like just kind of evaluating what the difference will be. Or somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I love your candle smell. I want to make lotions. I want to help, I want to be a part of that. So can you kind of just give us some nuggets there for the folks that are more product rather than service based?
I would love to give some tidbits on it, just because I'm on the service side. Is think about, even though you've got a product, think about not only who the end user would be, but think about that middle person or party that could be the gifter or the person that introduces the end user. So an example would be, as a realtor, and I gift a lot. My business model is built around gratitude. Anybody that's ever come in contact with me knows that I'm going to give you a journal for everything, because my brand is around goal setting and achievement. So everything I do is tied to that. So all my gifts are tied to that. A person who has a paper company or journals or candles, things related to that type of experience, it would serve them to leverage someone like me because I'm gifting it. So now you've spent time reaching the end consumer, but you also spent time with that middle person that could be gifting it or adding value to someone else. So I would say, if you got a product, think not only about who your end user is, but who could be a carrier, who could be a point of introduction, because now you have a much broader base. And so in a simple terms, right, that's B2B and B2C, even though you've got a product. So open your mind to where the opportunities could be beyond a brick and mortar, beyond just selling it on Amazon, but what are the right organizations and relationships you could have that could be a product, a profit line for you as well.
I'll throw out something here. My background, I'm an engineer. So what I'm about to say is going to be based on that. And then essentially put it in the context of small business. There's three things I'll share with you. So if I'm a manufacturer of a product, of a good, I'm making candles in this case. So one thing I want to think about is capacity. So capacity is something with volume. So if I'm going to start to create more different varieties of candles, it means now I've increased the volume. So the question will then be, is a process question. Do I have the right business processes in place in order to handle more volume coming through the door or going out the door in this case? So more volume usually means more customers. And as I mentioned earlier when I started off, that means more invoicing. Do I have the financial systems in place to send out the invoices so I can get paid? Do I have the right accounting system so I can keep track of all of my costs? Because just because I have more volume doesn't mean I'm more profitable. In fact, I could start losing money because I have a lot more waste, okay? The other thing I have to think about is what we call capability. The capability is around skills. So if I have more volume going out the door, I have to think about the skills that I have, and I have to think about the skills of my employees. So when I started off the candle business, it was just me. I'm a sole proprietor. Now that I've added more candles into the product line, I had to hire more people. Now I have to be a supervisor and a manager. That's a capability question. Have I ever trained people? Have I ever developed people? Have I ever managed people? Have I ever dealt with HR issues before? Have I ever dealt with workers' comp? Now I have to develop these new skills. So I have to think about my capabilities. If I have a gap in those capabilities, then I have to go out and get some training. And then a little bit what Melinda was talking about, I have to think about quality. In this case, consistency. Well, before, when I was only making 100 candles a month, I was checking every candle myself personally. Now that I'm making 1,000 a month, I can't look at every candle. Well, what are my systems in place to make sure I have consistent quality? If I don't have consistent quality, the customer is going to leave me. So it's this capacity, it's capability, and quality. That's the things that at least a manufacturer has to be focused on. At least one of the three of the things that a manufacturer should focus on, especially as they start to grow the business.
Yeah, and that's a great answer, Dr. Kellery. And to kind of complement what he says, also your consumers are, they're going to tell you if that's worth, adding an additional revenue model, adding more candles. If we stand with the candles consistently, we look at it's so just selling to the customer base, and it depends on how much of a customer base you have. Maybe you start out with a trial, introducing a trial. Hey, we are launching these new candles. We want to see how it do, but always keeping track of your data. Melinda spoke about, how she, looks at data and track our KPIs through these, through the fourth quarter. So you always got to stay on top of that. That makes it even more important for you to know when it's ready to roll out. So if you're looking at your customer base, and if you have a good solid customer base and they're loyal, studies have showed that 51% of repeated customers are more likely to buy 30% more of new products and try that than trying to acquire new customers. And then you don't have to worry about the cost acquisition, because that will stay the same for the most part, because you already had a customer base. Nike does it all the time. Apple does it all the time. Started out with a laptop, and now you have phones and Apple Watches and AirPods, and the list goes on. So that can work from that standpoint. But if you don't have the logistics aspect of it that Dr. Calorie stated, then you really don't understand how to control your margins, or if you do have enough to go to a mass production. And if you are making it, then you can lose quality. So it really takes a strategic aspect to know when to grow, add new product lines. But you definitely have to, that's why they always do surveys. They offer, money to do small surveys. The customers are going to tell you if they want it or don't want it. So you have to make sure that you invest in that research and development aspect of it. I know Melinda knows more about that because she worked in, in marketing and things of that nature. So these are some of the things you have to really start to consider when rolling out new products. It's just not, we're just going to roll it out because I feel like it. So I always tell people that I'm coaching, when you see checking and cash places popping up in a lot of the low income Black neighborhoods where the economic median is 50,000 and below, is because the probability of them needing a loan will be higher than somebody in $100,000 economic median neighborhood. So it's research done behind that to know this is safe to set up here and I can be successful. So that's how you have to think when you are an entrepreneur, especially when you are a small business and you're thinking to grow to those larger scales.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for staying on. I know we got started a little late. We're running 3 minutes over, so our apologies for that. And we definitely want to be respectful of everyone's time in this phenomenal day. We would say as we talk about the key takeaways, I hope you heard loud and clear from us. Really, above all, is your readiness. Being understanding. Have you really covered off on the basics as an entrepreneur, whether you are doing it full time as a side hustle, but being ready, the actual, those essential basics. The second around the value of time. Time is invaluable to all of us, whether you are still working your day job or you do this full time, understanding the value of your time and how you extend that and exert that in the world. The third thing that came up was going beyond being organized and systematizing things that you can within your business. And fourth, owning your brand. How do you own and protect your brand and how you show up? And fifth, I would say from this conversation is really around monetizing your entire process. Where are there opportunities for you to either create unique streams of income or better qualify your clientele and your products within the spaces where you're currently generating income? Because as Adam said, this isn't about making money. This is about being profitable. So the Entrepreneurship Committee, with the awesome moderator, Miss Lanice Lee, the great Adam, the Adam, and obviously no one could ever pull any of this together. He passed the baton to me, Mr. Kevin. We appreciate you guys sitting in with the entrepreneurs that are active members of the National Black MBA. So thank you for joining us. We will see you in the networking room and on to the next session.